As you look over this empire of media that you now run and review these very different industries in the face of the digital revolution, would you say they all face the same challenge, or are newspapers fundamentally different from radio, from television, as you see this evolution and revolution developing?
Well, I guess part of the answer to that is that I've been around long enough to have been a witness of the early versions of fragmentation, where radio impinged on newspapers and television on radio and cable on television and so on. All of them face these challenges, and every one of them will maintain their present level of importance only by taking market share, because the divisions in which we operate of business are going to be more and more fragmented and diversified. But interestingly enough, my experience tells me, and my current view looking at a year like this coming out hopefully of a recession, is that the tried and true are still very powerful marketing tools. Television, local television is having a very good year this year. Newspapers have started to solve the problem of a business model that had to be retooled. They'll be around ink on paper for as long as the eye can see, but that won't be the only way that they're communicating with their audiences. They're all online. My view is that maybe as high as 25 or 30% of newspaper consumption will be on the new devices, the iPad type of device, so that the main issue here is not so much to be smart, but to be flexible. Hopefully we can be both of those things, but nimble is very important. Every day that I get up, I hear of something or read of something that threatens us or advances us somewhere, and we're diversified enough to defend ourselves normally against those assaults, but also to take advantage of the opportunities.
So magazines been interesting to me, because I came out of that business,
Right,
as well as the newspaper business. Hearst was a founding partner of Next Issue Media, which is a consortium of 5 or 6 of the largest magazine publishers in the country, to launch publications in the mobile world. I think you were kind of ahead of the curve in thinking about things like the iPad and tablets. Apple kind of upended things and is now launching its own newsstand, which Next Issue had planned to do. Are you in competition with Apple? How do you view the closed platform versus open platform debate that seems to be developing around some of the tablet devices?
Well, all of this is obviously very much in transition, and nobody knows what the end game is. You may have seen a story recently about cooperation of Apple with newspaper publishers. Yeah. And my own belief is that they're very smart. They need content for these devices. We'll work out a method of working together. We obviously want to be able to put our content on every conceivable platform. Early in the cable networking days, we faced the opportunity to be exclusive versus furnishing our programming everywhere, which is a decision we decided to do and has paid off handsomely with satellite and now telephony, et cetera. So my view is that we will work out an accommodation with the Apples of the world. There'll be others there. There'll be competition beyond what exists today in that field with the devices. And I think that content still remains something that is indispensably important to what they're doing, and they know that.
How confident are you about the viability of paywalls of one form or another for various forms of media, whether it's news or video or audio? Where do you come down on the future of paywalls?
Well, I think the world knows that content owners gave up some opportunities in the free models of the early digital age. That's going to go on. There are people who are heavier and lighter consumers, and the advertising free model, if you will prevail as a part of the future. But we do think, again, I think the devices have a better opportunity for paywalls than the internet, than online. But we're following a practice very similar to what most of the media world is, and that is giving our publics a good deal free, and free means advertising supported. It doesn't mean without income. But we also are not offering all of our content in that fashion. We're going to hold some back for consumption really on our existing products. For instance, in our newspapers these days, some content gets promoted and can only be gotten in the forthcoming Sunday paper, for example, initially. Then it may be free on the internet after that. So there are ways of doing that. We found ourselves in no small hole in terms of free everything in a difficult time, and free is powerful. But we've managed to move in the direction of being paid for our content, and I know that will continue.
What would you do differently if you could go back into the 97, 99 time frame?
Well, I'm not even sure that in this case hindsight is 20/20. It's supposed to be most of the time, but I think that we probably would have held back some of the in-depth things that we offered for free. But I think more importantly, we probably would have moved faster into that world. I remember that we at Hearst, Al Sykes had been the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, and somebody that and had written actually the communications plans for the Commerce Department, and somebody that I thought very smart. And when he left the Bush administration, I brought him to Hearst, and we had one of the first, quote, new media labs. That's what it was called in those days. You could come in and sample all of these new opportunities. So we moved early, but probably not early enough. And I still remember the first day that I laid the law down, as it were, for all of our managers on how this digital revolution was going to change everything. I heard from a voice in the back, "Thank God I'm old." And I think some people still feel that way about what's happening. I don't. I see, as I did everything along the way in these 50 years I've been doing this, I see more excitement today. In fact, there's more excitement in my second tenure as CEO of Hearst than there was in those first 23 years, as great as they were for me.
It doesn't seem overwhelming at times? I mean,
it does seem overwhelming at times, but you pick yourself up and say, we've made it before, we can make it again.
Imagine a media executive in his early 30s, same age as you when you took over the San Antonio paper as publisher. What one piece of advice, I call this the plastics question in honor of the graduate, but what one piece of advice would you give her or him to prepare for leadership in the marketing and media and advertising future?
Well, I wish I could give you a single word like plastics, but I can't. I remember that great moment in movie history. But the principal advice I would give, what one would expect to already be a smart, educated person, well able to communicate and write, all the things you have to be a success, is that be open-minded. Do not buy into anything. The old story about don't fall in love with a stock, it won't love you back. Don't fall in love with any particular approach to delivery of content and media. Be open to all of them, evaluate them, make your decisions incrementally, not from some foreordained concept that you might have.
Great. Thank you, Frank Bennack. I really appreciate this. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Bennack.
Thank you.